Hi everyone, just before we get into this episode of Type 1 I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much for pressing play. I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you do, don't forget to hit subscribe and you'll be notified when new episodes come about. You can find us across podcast land on Spotify, iTunes, all those good places as well. Secondly, anything you hear on this podcast should not be taken as medical advice. I am, of course, not a professional, and you do need to seek advice from your healthcare team before making any changes to your diabetes management. And lastly, if you want to say hello, I do have an Instagram page specifically for the Type 1 podcast. You can find it at Studio Type 1. That's at Studio Type 1, the number, on 1, the number. And you can also come and say hello and follow me on my personal page, which is at Miss Jen Greaves. And all of that will be noted in the episode description. Hi everyone, and welcome to Type 1, a podcast that delves into the obscure, complex and challenging world of life with Type 1 diabetes. I'm Jen Greaves, and each week, with the help of some brilliant guests, I'll be showing that there is no normal when it comes to handling this whopper of a chronic condition, because we're all pretty much figuring out the messiness of day-to-day life with diabetes as we go. And most of all, even though it doesn't always feel like it, we are absolutely not alone. Hey, just to disclose that I met today's wonderful guest, Richard, through doing some work with Insulet, who are the makers of Omnipod. I have a professional relationship, but this conversation is completely independent of that. And of course, all of Richard's opinions are his own. You're about to hear exactly why I knew I had to get him on the podcast as soon as I met him, so do enjoy this episode. Today's guest, Richard Dixon, has been living with type 1 diabetes for nearly 40 years, which is no small thing by anyone's standards. But on top of the many challenges that come with living with the condition, Richard spent a lot of that time in fear of his next injection due to a debilitating fear of needles. Every mealtime would cause huge amounts of worry, and it wasn't until Richard discovered diabetes technology that he found some peace of mind, transforming life for not only himself, but his young family too. And I'm very pleased to say that Richard is in a really good place. And welcome to Type 1, Richard. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi there.
Hi, hello. How are you today? How's sunny Oldham?
I'm good. And Oldham is not very sunny. I just looked out the window there. It's kind of rainy. It's Oldham is like in between Manchester and Rochdale, so it's kind of like you get all the rain, but sometimes you get a little bit of sun on the other side as well. So, yeah.
Just in the middle of it all. The
That's
whirlwind,
it.
a bit like type 1 diabetes.
That's the one, mate. Yeah. So.
And we were just chatting beforehand, and I was saying I'm a little bit high because I went for a run and then I didn't reconnect my pump because I was getting ready. And so I'm like dealing with the consequences, and you were like chilling over here. So how is it to hear? I know I like that introduction was quite kind of full on, but it is your story, right? It is the journey that you've been on. So yeah, how does it feel to be sat here being like, I'm all right?
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't really used to talk about my diabetes so much, but recently I think I've got a bit more confidence with it. So, as you say, I've been living with it for like 40 years, nearly 40 years, which is scary. Um, so it makes me sound really old, that. But yeah,
No.
yeah, so yeah, I've been living with it for nearly 40 years. It's 38 years to be exact. And I am 40, so
Yeah, you were super young when you were diagnosed, right? We'll
yeah.
get into that.
The strange thing is, I never really used to openly talk about it so much, but since a few things that happened to me not so long ago, I've kind of talked about it a bit more. But I think it's good to talk about it because, like, I didn't realize one thing I didn't realize so much about was the diabetes community. Even though I've been diabetic for like 38 years, it's something I've not really been so much involved with, which is kind of scary. And many people
Mm.
don't really know it exists, I don't think. Maybe people do, but if you don't, there is a huge community out there, and it's something to get into, I think, because I think without the diabetes community, I wouldn't probably be sat here talking as I am now. It's actually helped me in a massive way. It helped me get into the technology and to get over some of those hurdles to where I am now.
Yeah, amazing. And I think what you say there really strikes a chord with me because, you are, like, your story is extraordinary. There's no doubt about that. But it's also a very ordinary one in that, as you say, a lot of people don't know what's out there, or we're all trying to just kind of figure this out as best we can. But you have to kind of be quite proactive, I think, in going out there and trying to find other possibilities. But often we don't think that because we're told what to do and we're given this information from experts in their field, and you just kind of go through life getting on with what you've always done. Does that kind of resonate with you?
Yeah, I actually think that was really well explained there. So you get into a rhythm, and with that rhythm, you kind of stay in it. And sometimes you don't know there are other paths. So it could be like I always had that fear of needles, um, and I was just coping with it. However, if I would have known about some of these things, like with the technology sooner on, I possibly would have been in a much better place much faster. Now that's nothing against like doctors, but they have it from their perspective, don't they? So you're okay with your diabetes. There's not much we need to do. You're cool. Just roll with it. However, it's not just about your diabetes looks good. It's also the physical and mental impact as well. Like especially with with my thing with the needles. Like I was just coping. But if I would have had that additional help or known more, I think that could have massively helped me. Do you know what I mean? So it was a
Yeah.
big thing. Just finding out that I could do something different.
Yeah, I think it's huge. And it really, in some ways, is so frustrating because, like you say, you're not just talking about getting by. This is like quality of life for you, for your partner, for your family. So, I mean, now that you are in this place that is so much better, thanks to, as you say, the community. And I would say the same. I had no interest in insulin pumps whatsoever until I was more connected to the community. And I found out, or even something like knowing that there was more than one type of insulin. Um,
Mm.
that they would work differently. I know you had similar experiences to me with Nova Rapid in that it's not particularly fast, it's not particularly
No.
rapid. But speaking to that quality of life, can you kind of just tell me a little bit? We're jumping the gun, of course, but in terms of the difference now, do you feel like that is a stark contrast outside of the numbers, outside of time in range, outside of medical outcomes, your quality of life for you as a guy who's
Mm.
just doing his job and like raising his family and wanting to enjoy that experience of being in the world and raising children and being with your family? Do you feel that's very different now?
I do. I don't think I've ever been in a less diabetes is at the forefront of my life than I have now. So now, what I would say is it's always there. There's nothing you can do about that. Um, not till hopefully one day they find a cure, which would be epic. But it always used to be kind of there, like constantly on my mind. The big thing, even before I moved on to doing lots of injections, because I only used to originally take 2 a day, and then I moved to taking like 8 to 9 a day. Um, but I always used to think about that next injection, but it'd always be there in my mind, and it would be like I can't explain it. So it's like kind of like this massive weight has been lifted away from me. Um, I don't really think about it now. I don't really think about that the next injection. Now I just like think about everything else that I should have been thinking about. So I do think it's kind of weirdly. I know this sounds really weird, but I do think it kind of held me back a bit with things. So I know it's hard to explain and to get into words for myself, but I do think because of having to worry about those constant injections, it also made me think, can I do this? Can't I do that? Do you know what I mean? Can I do this now? Can't I do that now? And I'm kind of now doing more things that I didn't think, I've got more confidence. That's the thing. So it's taken away that massive weight, but now it's done that. I'm able to focus more on what I want to do and less about the needles. So yeah,
Oh,
got more
it's
freedom.
amazing. I
So
know, like, oh, I'm just beaming because I think there are so many people, regardless of a fear of needles. I think just dealing with type 1 diabetes, when you speak of that decision making, the possible outcomes that come from those decisions of, shall I go and do this? Shall I go try this thing, eat at this restaurant, go for a walk. Like everything comes with a consequence when you live with type 1 diabetes, let alone if you then add this fear of needles that you literally have to face multiple times a day,
Well,
every day. Yeah,
it's the
it's
amount of
huge.
decisions. I don't think people realize. So, if a person isn't diabetic, it's I don't think people realize the amount of decisions we have to make every day. It's like not just one or two. We make hundreds, sometimes can be multiple hundreds of decisions we make just on a daily basis. Is that the right food I'm eating? What will that do to me? Will it make me poorly? If I do this, could it impact the next meeting I'm doing? Could it impact my work? Could it impact my life? Could it impact my future? We make so many decisions on a daily basis that I don't think it's not normal to make those decisions as a human. Not to that level, anyway. And to have some of those like decision making things taken away, and you've got a bit more freedom to do more things you want to do, is a huge win, in my opinion. So there's
Yeah.
still decisions, still make hundreds of decisions probably daily, but less hundreds of decisions, and it's more logical decisions.
It just, there's so many people out there going through this, and like you say, doing it alone, not aware of the other possibilities or options. I feel like the more and more people I come across, like the stories are similar in that there's just this period where you feel like you're doing everything you can and you're at the absolute limit of what you can handle with type 1 diabetes, and you feel like you're getting nowhere. I've certainly been in that place. And the basics of the knowledge that we're given, I do think there's just such a gap. And like you say, it's not anyone's fault in that people have to do their jobs. And if you're kind of doing okay, or it looks okay when you look at the charts, like, okay, that is one thing, but at what cost to the rest of your life, and this mental load. So like you say, like now that you've got more confidence because of where you've got to, and you are speaking about your story a bit more, like how has that been for you to kind of step into that a bit more?
So I actually think it's good because I think I've been able to help people. So there are there was a couple of people I've talked to about this sort of stuff, and they were like, "Well, I also have fear of needles. I didn't realize that I could do an insulin pump. Or what is an insulin pump?" So being able to share my story with those people. So for example, I thought an insulin pump was something. I don't laugh. I am very much into technology, but because my focus wasn't on like insulin pumps and stuff, I didn't realize this, but I honestly thought an insulin pump was something you had to have surgically like implanted into you. I know NASA actually did create something where they did do that. I'll get into that in a minute. But
Oh my god.
I thought that it was something that was actually inserted into you and it stayed in your body. And I was thinking, I don't know whether I want to do that, when it's I don't want something invasively stuck in my body and it's constantly there. But it's not. So an insulin pump is something that you can attach and you can detach. Um, and you do that every so often. I do want to get back to the NASA thing though. So NASA did invent a type of insulin pump that sat inside your system, and it was a technology that used, like we use U100 insulin. So it's a type. It's a type, or it's the concentrated insulin essentially. NASA did it to a much higher degree, and it lived in your system for longer and activated longer. It didn't. It was very not cost effective, so they didn't push it further. But there are, I think, still people in the world who've got these things inserted in the system. So it's something you attach, and you can add more things in. And this is it. I was learning about these things as well. So once I got into the learning about insulin pumps, I learned it was amazing. I didn't realize there was so much technology out there and things that have been happening in the background for a long amount of time. It's fascinating. Uh,
Yeah,
some amazing things out there. So
truly is. And as you say, you're a tech enthusiast, so we should probably do an introduction because
yeah, I do apologize. Yeah,
no, it's completely my fault because we've met before through some work
we
we were
have.
doing. There's this prior knowledge, but for the benefit of the listeners who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, if you could just in your words say who is Richard? Where is Richard? Just a brief introduction in your words.
Yeah, so I'm Richard. I live in Greater Manchester. I live in Oldham. You mentioned that before. I've been diabetic for 38 years. I have an amazing young family. As you've said, I've got two boys. One is called Brendan, who's 9, and the other is Adrian, who is 6. And they are amazing little dudes. You've met them, haven't you? So
I
I'm going to
have
question
met
you on
them,
all sorts
yeah,
of
and
things.
I can
So,
verify. Amazing little
yeah.
dudes, truly.
And my partner Lynn, I don't know how she puts up with me with all my diabetes stuff, but she does. She is phenomenal. So yeah, I love guitars. I play loads of video games. And it's now more than ever. It's about like spending my time with my family and less
Yeah.
about my other burdens with my diabetes. And it's all about my family and making sure I can do things in my life that I wasn't doing before, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, and you're doing such a service because I think that's what so many people living with type 1 diabetes and in this kind of very frustrating, difficult place, that's what we want is to be able to go out and do the things that matter to us with the people that matter to us. So yeah, we'll definitely come on to how wonderful Lynn is a bit later, but I'd like to start, I guess, at the beginning, which, as you've mentioned, was very, very early on for you in terms of your diagnosis. So, what do you know? Obviously, you were, I think, 2 years old, right?
I
So,
I was 2, yeah.
yeah.
So the strange thing is I got diabetes when I was 2, and so did my sister. She also got it at 2 years old, and what they found out, or what they think is, sometimes it's to do with genes. It's to do with your mum and dad's genes and how they interact when you're being created. So, they think it was possibly down to that, but diabetes is so complex. Many different things can cause things to happen, but I got it when I was 2 years old, and, what happened is I was drinking a lot of, like, water. Now my mum, who used to be a midwife, was like, "Something isn't right here. I'm gonna take Richard to the doctors to get him looked at." And the doctor said, "Well, I think he's got, possibly a kidney problem, if he's drinking so much." And my mum said it just doesn't sound right. He smells like pear drops. He's got this like scent around it. And the doctor said, "Oh no, 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 no. That I don't think that's the problem. I don't think that's the problem." So we did blood tests on me, but my mum actually said that there needs to be more done than just these blood tests. I want you to check him for diabetes. And the doctor said, "No, it's not diabetes. It's not diabetes." This still happens, I think, to people. But anyway, so did the blood tests, and they were a lot more complex back then. They weren't just instantaneous. You had to wait longer, and it did come back to say I had diabetes. So without my mum, I don't know where I'd be now. But I could have anything could have happened there. But I do think she saved us there massively. But
Mm,
it was, yeah. When she told her that, it was dead interesting. So
yeah.
it was. Yeah, you don't realize, like, that these things happen, do you? But, yeah, she saved us there. So, yeah, mother's instinct and all that, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And what's the age gap between you and your sister?
So, there is a 2-year age gap. I had to think that through. Kind of like my 2 sons, so, yeah, it is 2-year age gap.
Are you the older sibling?
I'm the
Or
older
the
sibling, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Unfortunately,
Oh
yeah, I'm the older.
gosh. Oh wow. So for your parents to be going through this
Yeah,
twice, that is just a lot. Have you spoken to them much?
well,
Like you said that, you spoke to them about that diagnosis and stuff.
interestingly, because my mum used to be a midwife,
Mm,
she'd seen these things happening with kids. Now, something that I found really interesting, she told me that back back then in like 1987, diabetes was something that, well, it was something that was happening. Obviously, quite a common thing still, but the diagnosis stuff was not really at the forefront. Many children, it would take like a lot of time for them to figure out what was going on. So it wasn't just like, right, instantly test for diabetes, instantly test for this. Some doctors may have done that. I can't say that, but in the medical field, from what my mum explained to me, there was not an emphasis on pushing for that test immediately. along with obviously other tests. A lot of doctors like, no, it's got to be something else before that. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, the tests weren't as accurate back then, and that's factual. But yeah, it's now you can see there is differences, although there are still people misdiagnosed, and hopefully this is something that will improve over time. But yeah, it's dead. Yeah, dead. I'm so lucky about my mum. I won't. I don't think be her.
Mm,
So,
mm,
uh,
yeah. And you mentioned there that things are different now. Your kind of management regime was incredibly different, right?
it
So,
was. Yeah.
what's your first kind of memory, diabetes related memory? Do you know?
So yeah, I can actually remember. Um, my dad, I believe it was my dad from when you look back, it's all hazy. It was my dad. He was boiling. They used to put insulin syringes and boil them up. It was just I was just at the cusp before they went on to like throwaway needles and lancets that went on top. So I remember my dad having to boil and my mum boil those needles. And then yeah, that used to be the way to do it. So and also no blood meters. I remember having to urinate on a stick. So many people, a lot like it always makes me laugh. So many people don't realize there was no blood tests. Oh, no blood meter tests. I think they did exist in the 80s, but it was something that wasn't commercially available to people. So I had to pee on a stick, and it would be different colours to indicate is your glucose high, medium, or low. Didn't tell you what it was, but the thing with those as well is that kind of like CGMs. You know how CGMs have a 10-minute delay? Urine's even worse. So it takes
Isn't it
ages for you.
hours, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's something like that. Yeah, it's crazy. So when you had that done, you could have been it showed high. You could have been 10 times higher than that. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just on the cusp before blood meters came in. But I do remember going on a blood meter as well. And the first thing that takes your blood, the prick that
Yeah.
takes the blood out of your fingers and stuff. I remember that being brutal. It was like I always have this horrific memory of this horrible thing you used to pull back and it would smash into your finger or your thumb to get the blood out. So I was there on the cusp of these things. So and the needles as well. One thing I do remember, and I thought it was just me thinking, oh, I was tiny at the time, but needles used to be a lot bigger. They used to be like that. So they used to be
Yeah.
huge. So
Just tiny
so
Richard against this giant needle.
that's it. But they definitely were bigger back in the day.
Oh,
So
100%. Yeah.
and it's amazing to see the technology now has made them smaller. However, I do believe, like just speaking personally, for a very long time, diabetes just stayed on a very slow track. There was just blood meters, you tested it, you went to your doctor, you had your HbA1c and all that stuff. All of it was on a very, very slow track. And I think it was only I would say the last 5, 6 years where there's been huge acceleration in technology with diabetes, with obviously continuous glucose monitors, insulin pumps have massively come along.
Yeah.
And new types of insulin have started to appear, obviously with Fiasp and Lumjev and all that stuff. So yeah,
It's quite wild, isn't it? Because 40 years is a long time to live with type 1
it
diabetes,
is.
38.
Yeah.
But in the span of time, to witness that much evolution in management, in technology, and therefore in quality of life, that is pretty quick, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd always say it's pretty quick. I disagree. I know this sounds weird.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
reason I disagree is because the way I look at it is a computer. So look at computers in the 80s. What drastically changed in the 90s, and then from that, what drastically changed all the way up until now. There were huge, massive changes. We've come from very simple devices all the way up to what we've got now. I do feel that diabetes technology was kind of in a safe place for a while, and there may not have been as much push on it. And it's only been with fundamental changes like CGMs, and there's been pushes now to have new types of insulin because they needed insulin to work faster. These sorts of things are happening, and stem cells are now starting to come through, and all those sort of things. I do think diabetes is a slow thing at changing, as in the technology. However, recently it's been rapidly changing. I've never seen it rapidly change like this. We are seeing huge changes, like on like a couple of yearly basis. Hopefully, this is big good thing. So it might be like computers at the start, how it's a little bit slow and then they picked up. So maybe this is like the pickup bit for diabetes tech now, where it's really going to accelerate through the stratosphere. That's what I'm hoping. So
Yeah, I think to your point completely that maybe that there's a difference there between the technology existing and the access to that technology.
yeah, there is that as well. Yeah.
And maybe that's where, like, because yeah, I would agree, like, you can see from the We Are Not Waiting movements and the people who
Mm,
have been doing open source looping for many years that this
exactly.
has been
Yeah.
around. Yeah, so I agree with that completely. I think the availability, certainly in the UK, the fact that we are now getting on these systems, when I speak specifically about hybrid closed loop, which I find has been incredibly like phenomenal in terms of my quality of life and the burden and the decision making and all those things. It was like chicken and egg in the sense of, well, my perception of it, which could be incorrect. You kind of need the data and the outcomes and the studies to show that this stuff is worth investing in from a medical perspective or an NHS perspective. It's a
That's it.
tricky one, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, and I think a lot of it as well is not enough people use the technology for them to
Mm,
get the benefit out of it. But now, because of what's happening with more people using it in the UK, especially, I think we're going to see huge changes, especially with
yeah.
like insulin pumps and everything. Um, a lot more people are using them, and generally, when a lot more people use these things, this is where technology pushes forwards. So,
Yeah. And if we talk about, health outcomes, time in range, I know you've had phenomenal results. Then we look at things like long-term complications. That is
mm,
all cost saving, which ultimately is going to drive this
exactly.
stuff forward, right?
Yeah,
What,
exactly.
as a man who is now immersed more in this world and is interested in technology, and I know you work in technology as well, what kind of excites you then about what's possible or potential out there for the next decade, 2 decades, etc.?
So you mentioned hybrid closed loop, and I know a lot of the insulin pump manufacturers are working on closed loop, which is where there's less decision making re entering carbohydrates. So, as you know, hybrid closed loop, you have to still tell it the carbs you're eating, and then it tries to do your background insulin itself to work out your ratios better. What they are all trying to grasp or get the golden opportunity to. It's less about carb counting and more of it trying to work it out itself via AI algorithms and so forth. Now,
Wow.
I think once they crack that, and I do think AI will be the thing that does this for them. AI is very data intensive and it works out things. Um, Once they crack that and find the right way of doing it, that'll be the game changer before the cure happens. So the cure may be down the road, possibly, but I think the next big thing for technology and diabetes wise is no carb counting if you're on an insulin pump, or less carb counting and more it does the work itself and tries to help you do decision making better as well. So it might be that it tells you, you can see with if anyone uses Dexcom, um, they have started to implement some AI features into the G7 application where they're saying now you can see this type of food and it can try and help you work things out. I think we're going to see a lot more with these companies using AI to help people in the future. So,
That is fascinating to me. As someone who has such bare bones of understanding of this stuff, I have always wondered how a system can predict what I'm going to eat when one day
yeah.
I'll eat a 10-gram carb lunch. Well, that never happens, but and the next day I might eat 80-gram carb lunch. How can it know or predict what I feel like putting in my mouth that day, or what I've got time to put in my mouth that day, or whether I'm eating 3 square meals or like grabbing what I can on the go? What's your interpretation of how that is how that could be possible?
So I personally believe it's all data driven. So what I think we're going to start to see is the more we give information to the device that can work out what we're eating and doing, the better it's going to be able to help us. Kind of like now with hybrid closed loop, the better you are with carb counting. the better it can kind of help you keep time in range. But I think what we're going to see is this is just something I personally believe we'll start to see, where the insulin pump will just be like, "Are you having a big, small, or medium meal?" Or it could even be that actually you might tell it the food you're eating. So instead of carbs, it might be that you say, "I'm eating a pizza, a big pizza." And it's got like, oh, there's cheese on it and stuff. That'd be amazing. I want pizza now. But it might be amazing that if we, it might be that we start to tell it like natural, like natural speaking language. We don't go into a restaurant and say, "Give me 50 grams of carbs." We'll say, "I want this
Yeah.
food, and this is what I want. This is the food I want." Now, your body doesn't see carbohydrates. You just eat it, and it works things out. Um, Generally, with hormones that work out this is how much food you've had, and then it can do that. And I think it's going to be similar. I think it's going to be like you'll kind of say, "I'm eating a large bit of food or a medium bit of food," and it will be able to help you do these things in the future. Um, Whoever can crack that first or get a good way of cracking it, we will be in like a kind of utopia world until we get the cure. That's my opinion. More of a utopian world than what we have now. So we're nearly there, and the hybrid closed loop's phenomenal. But I think the next stage is when they crack this will be big, very big. But I think it's going to be quite complex. But if they can do it,
Mm.
that will be the win.
Richard, I feel like you could do this.
Well, if I could, if I could, I'd be like a multi-billionaire. But
Yeah.
no, I do think AI, and I know a lot of people. Oh yeah, AI. Everyone talks about AI. AI will be the key here because AI, I believe, will be able to interpret the data. So what I think it'll do is say, right, actually, Jen's had 3 pizzas this week, and when she's eating those pizzas,
Great week.
this is what it's doing to Jen. It's making her glucose go really high at these parts of the night or these parts of the day. Or actually, Jen went running before she had these pizzas, and then it's doing this at these points in time, and it's gonna, I think, help predict. It's kind of like what we would do, but it will do that for us.
Like replicating the response of a body that is with a functioning pancreas
Yes.
with functioning beta cells. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm hearing here is that these big companies need to recruit Richard as a consultant to get on these teams to make this happen, because it sounds like you've got a great grasp of where this is all going.
That would be amazing. But I do think the AI and the data is the big one. But again, I'm not sure whether the open source community will work this out before they do. And once they do that, then this will push that forwards. So they may use like Gemini models, Google Gemini, say, or they may use some like Chat GPT models to work this out for them. If they do that, then it could be then this accelerates it faster. And I've got nothing against the medical companies. They have to do the right things, but what you tend to find is the open source guys do it maybe a bit before, and then it kind of accelerates it for the tech companies as well. So I know they are looking at stuff anyway. They're all working on a version of this. So it
Okay.
is the future, definitely.
This episode of Type 1 is sponsored by Dexcom. Using Dexcom CGM has given me so much confidence to make informed diabetes treatment decisions in the moment. You can choose to wear it on your arm or your abdomen, which is so great to give those sites a break. And all Dexcom CGMs have the share and follow feature, even when connected to an insulin pump. So your family and friends can see your glucose levels and get alerts, giving that extra bit of support when needed. Head to Dexcom.com to request your free Dexcom ONE Plus sample. Always read the user manual for important product aspect and limitations. Talk to your doctor for diabetes management terms and conditions and terms of use. So then, to that point, as we've expressed, this has all happened so relatively recently for you.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit, just to paint the contrast of this regime that you were on? As you said, you were put on a regime and you stayed on that regime for a very, very long time. It was quite a fixed regime from what I understand.
It was. I was on a mixed type of insulin, so it's long acting and fast acting. And I used to take 2 injections a day. And I was on this. My doctor used to call it old lady insulin because people in care homes used to have it. And I didn't understand this. I just thought he was having a laugh. But it's something that is used for people that aren't very mobile, and it's very good. It works, it does the job. So this was called Novamix. And now I was on this for years. I was on this since, I believe, since being diagnosed, all the way up to being 38. Now, what happened when I got to 38 is I started to need more of it, which was strange. Now I was needing a lot more of it. It was just like like one morning I woke up and my glucose was like 30. Now, the weird thing is my diabetes is very well maintained. I've got to be straight with you. So all the way up until this point, you have blips. Everyone has blips. No one's perfect. But my diabetes, my HbA1c was phenomenal, and it was It was tracking brilliantly. I was doing like really well. However, yeah, when I got to 38, it literally, I think when I turned 38, my diet, maybe a sign there. So, not a good birthday gift, but my diabetes
No.
started going a bit out of control, which is strange, different. And I was like, what's happening here? Why is this happening? And I need more and more insulin. And no matter what I was doing, it was increasing and increasing and increasing my glucose. It was going higher. I was waking up really high. Um, Obviously, I was changing everywhere I do my insulin. I always do that very well. Like looked after, I would do legs, my stomach, my arms, all over the place, as you do. But no matter what I would do, my glucose would keep going high, and then it would just completely drop. Um, and I went to see the doctor and the diabetes teams, and they were saying, "Well, we need to try and maybe like change the ratio." So they were very nervous about wanting to change me onto a different type of insulin, which I found very bizarre. But the doctor was saying it's worked so well. We don't just want to move you onto something and it doesn't work well. And I think that was a big mistake. So, and the reason for that, and I'll get into this, is because it got so bad that I actually had to go to A&E because it just wouldn't come down no matter what I was doing. And I was feeling so sick. So when my glucose goes above 13 or 13 around there, I feel like I've got hangover, which is absolutely rubbish
Mm.
without beer and so yeah. But yeah, so I feel like I get hangover and I feel like I've got the flu. I feel horrendous. So I was feeling like that on a daily basis. It was impacting my work, my family life, everything. And I was getting to the point of I'm not getting the help here. So I went to A&E and they did a blood test on me. They checked me out. My ketones was like raised, which I don't really get ketones until this was happening, and they were saying it looks like you're becoming insulin resistant, like literally resistant to this type of insulin. And what they actually told me was is that I really shouldn't have been kept on this insulin due to. I mean, it was working, and that's what they were saying. But really, you should have been offered a different approach here. Like you should have been offered multiple daily injections. And as soon as they said that, it was like alarm bells going off in my head. Does that mean more needles? I was like, oh no, seriously. I mean, I'm just coping with two. So she said, unfortunately, yeah, this is all we can give you for the time being. So I was like, okay, anything to help me because I was at a point where just give me something else because I was feeling so ill. So they gave me these multiple daily injections. Obviously, it was like a long acting insulin, and then I had fast acting insulin. So at first, I was taking around about 5 injections a day, 5 to 6 injections a day, but it was going up to like 8 or 9, and it was keeping it in range. I hated it. It was like the only way to describe it, it's like a constant fear. So I've got this massive issue with needles, as you've mentioned before. And it was the constant feeling of like, man, I have to take another one in like a couple of hours, or I know I'm going to eat something. Like, and it made me not want to eat food as well. So I did. I obviously still ate, but made me not want to. Like, took all the fun out of everything. It was like, oh man, I'm going to eat something. I want to need to inject. It was like, but it kind of like impacted me massively. Like, even though my glucose started to come back in range and everything was starting to get better, it was like impacting me work wise. Like I got work and I'd be like, I just couldn't. All I was thinking about was injections, and like it was really stressing me out. And the same with like my family life. I was like, I got to the stage and I said to Lynn that I can't keep doing this. I literally can't keep doing this. Like any more of this, and like like, what can I do? Because they say this is my only option here. You know, this can't be the only option. So obviously, I I put some stuff on X. I asked a couple of questions, and people mentioned insulin pumps, but I was still of the opinion I don't really want anything putting inside me. But my diabetic doctor was really good. He did recommend that maybe the best option here is an insulin pump. And he actually did go into detail around how it works and what it does. But when he started telling me about like it has tubes that come out into like a device, I was like, oh, I can't do that. And then he said, oh no, there are different kinds where you can stick some on you. But it took a bit of time to talk to the NHS to get this sorted, and it wasn't an easy thing to do back then. But um,
What was your initial response, given that you were balancing, you'd had this regime for so long that
it's a good
had worked
question.
for you
Mm.
despite the two needles, and then going into this like absolute free fall of all these injections and living in this like very insidious fear.
Yeah.
And what was your response then to this idea of an insulin pump?
So what what they said to me is your diabetes is so well controlled you don't need it. You're so fine and you saw your HbA1c is perfect. And I literally um the doctor is talking to me, and I don't often say this, but I think to be in a job you have to have compassion and listen to people with that sort of thing. And I felt like I was just being brushed off. He didn't want to. This was a different doctor back then. Didn't want to know. It's just like, well, it is what it is. You've got to live with it. Now, luckily, um, I actually did put on X something because the diabetes community had been asking some questions on that. I explained what had happened. And to my surprise, Dr. Parthakar actually jumped onto the back of a comment. So if
Mm.
people don't know who that is, he is, I'm not sure if he still is, he's a technical dude who deals with diabetes for the UK, oh, for England, sorry. He jumped onto the back of the comment and he actually said, like, that's not acceptable. If you've got these fears of needles, doesn't matter about time, control, all that sort of stuff. If this is impacting your life, then we need to do something here. So he did kind of help me push this forwards, to be fair. So he helped me put me through to the right channels of people to talk to. But I met this amazing doctor in Oldham. So from all of this diabetes doctor that I met is honestly possibly one of the greatest diabetes doctors I've ever met in my life. So it all kind of fell into place through talking to Dr. Parthakar. He got me in to see him. He talked things through and he said, no, it doesn't matter. If you're struggling, we don't want you to have to live your life in fear. And he helped me. But I also met an amazing diabetes team. So the insulin pump team in Oldham, uh, they are so good. They are just amazing people. Like it's the caring aspect of it as well. So I've been able to ask them loads of different questions, and I've never had a diabetes team so good, to be straight with you. So as a child, my diabetes team was just okay. It could be better because I'm not getting it, obviously, but when I was just on the normal diabetes run, the diabetes team didn't really support me, and I don't think it's totally their fault. And I'm not pointing fingers or blame. I don't think there's enough staff to help with this condition. That's a big problem with the NHS. I don't think they have enough people to deal with this condition. I also think that some of the people in those positions don't understand what you have to go through on a daily basis. So forget about being time in range. Forget about like you've got the most perfect control in the world. It's also the aspect of what is it doing to you. So it's not normal to have to stab yourself with all these injections on a daily basis. You know what I mean? There is like a thing there. And I did describe this to the insulin pump doctor, and he did take that away to see what they can do to get things started going forwards. But like if it wasn't for Dr. Parthakar and like this amazing diabetes doctor, Dr. Mishra is called, so I'll just mention he's phenomenal.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. And and Stacey, who's helped us who's a diabetes nurse, they were like phenomenal people. But it's just they listen to us. And I think having someone to listen to you and help you move something forwards, I don't think people realise like I've said this before, I think I may have been in a lot worse place now without those people. Now Lynn was amazing. Lynn helped me as well. So Lynn is my partner, and without Lynn, I would never have got this to where it is as well. So forget all the diabetes people and all that sort of stuff. Lynn's support to listen to me moan and complain. Although I say moan and complain, and she says I wasn't, it was justified. I mean, my family really did help me massively, and having that support is a crucial thing. But I think it was a few phase things. So Lynn helped me. The diabetes community was phenomenal, and Dr. Partha Carr. Um, there's a guy called Diabetes Dad, um, and he actually like messaged me as well on X to help me with a few things, and obviously the diabetes team I mentioned there. I think having those things in place massively helps us there. But I will say this: if anyone is struggling, you have to step up and speak out, because if people don't know, then you don't get the help. And one thing I've found with life is if you don't step up and speak out, nothing gets started. So you're always going to be stuck in whatever you're doing. And if people don't know, they can't help you. So if you are struggling, speak up, step out, like ask people, just see what you can do to get things moving, and be direct as well. So like find the people you think can help you. That's the way you get things started. So because diabetes, unfortunately, there's a lot of things to do to get things started. So you have to step up and do things. So
It is on us, but I think, like you've expressed there, it kind of takes a village. And when you explain it like that, is it any wonder that so many of us are struggling with this, because we do feel so alone, and it's
it's hard.
impossible. Yeah, it's so hard. So I think the jigsaw that you've painted there of, it starts with you asked questions online, and then through that, you got in contact with Partha, who is incredibly influential and is the reason that a lot of this
Yeah,
technology is as available as it is, on the NHS, and then going from there into a team, but then going into those team environments like your healthcare team with an idea of what it is that you need, I think is where things can start moving forward. And it's not to say that, and this is, shouldn't be so, but sometimes you have to present an argument or a case
you
for
have to.
this
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah. But
and
as you
big
say,
big
this is
thing.
your life.
Yeah, big thing I will say is don't ever let someone tell you something's right if it's not right. And that's just a general life thing I'm going to say here. So if someone tells you, "Oh no, that's fine. Don't worry about it. You're doing fine." Well, if you know you're not doing fine, then you have to push to make sure you get those things sorted. Because if you don't, you will always be stuck in this ever spiraling loop of things don't get sorted. So you have to step up, and that's just a personal thing I will say to people, especially diabetes. If you know something isn't right or working for you, step up and get it started, and push, 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 because it's the only way you can get anything done. And it's not easy, but if you need help, there's the diabetes community. There's If you don't feel you're getting help from your diabetes team, you can always step up and speak to. You can put complaints through. You can do everything to get yourself started. Don't. This isn't a sometimes things will just work out. You've got to push to get these things started.
Yeah, I love hearing that fire in you as well.
You've got to do it.
Yeah, because your health, without your health, like, what do you have really? And I think you're raising awareness as well that, and certainly this was the case for me, I wasn't that aware of how poorly I felt on a day to day. I knew I didn't feel good, but it had become my norm.
Yeah,
So there's an element of inertia there as well, where it's like this kind of unconsciousness of, this is just who I am and how I feel in my existence. So you're kind of drawing attention to that as well, which I think is a really important point too.
I will mention something as well. So I didn't really talk to people too much about my diabetes until a couple of years ago when all this started happening. So I had diabetes. I didn't really bring things up so much, but I might have told my teammates that like I wasn't feeling too good. My diabetes was running a bit high, or but I think don't ever worry about telling your boss, your co-workers, your friends, your family. You have to tell them if you're not feeling right, or this is what I've got and this is the things it can do to me. because you'll find that they're there to help you as well. So, like, if they don't know these things, they don't know how to help you. So, you've got to be open with people about this. So, don't do what I did, even if your stuff's tracking well or doing well. Try and obviously don't and like talk like it's about like making people aware that you have this and these are the things it can do to me so that those people can help you. And I think that's a really important thing because people don't like to talk about this. But I don't think people should be afraid to talk about it. Um, you have it, you've got it, and people should be aware to help you. And you need to tell people that this isn't just something that will go away. I have this for life, and if I do need the help, I'm going to need you there to support me.
Um, with the tech, you had this
Yes.
preconceived idea of insulin pumps, what they were. You mentioned about the surgery. You thought they were these big, huge contraptions. I think a lot of people are quite intimidated by the idea of using an insulin pump. Obviously, it's delivering insulin. What was your experience like of that, going from being quite not skeptical of insulin pumps, but maybe hesitant to actually getting onto an insulin pump and using it on a day-to-day basis?
So I'm going to be direct. I didn't trust it at first. I thought, nah, this doesn't seem right. This feels weird. But it's like anything. So when I first moved on to, I'm on the Omnipod 5. When I first moved on to it, it was like a massive cultural change from what I was used to with all the injections. Um, but be direct here, it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. So, um, I don't worry about the needles anymore. You don't really feel it go in as well. So I don't know if anyone's ever used this, but what an Omnipod is, it looks like a very big CGM. And that's one thing people get confused with what this is. But an Omnipod, there is no tubes, there is no, it all sits inside the device. And basically, you just attach it and it stays on you for 3 days. You rip it off and then you put a new one on. I do hope one day they'll do it without so much plastic waste. It's one of those things, isn't it? So, but what this does is it basically sits on you for 3 days, so it's constantly giving you the insulin over those 3 days. And going from the multiple daily injections onto this, I was so used to being like I wanted all the control, even though I was afraid of the needles, to this kind of doing the work. But it's a huge, massive change. It's a big change and a good change. Now, anyone wondering about an insulin pump, there isn't just Omnipods, there's different versions of insulin pumps. There's like people can go and research them, they can go and talk to the doctors at the NHS if they're interested in them. But there's some with tubes, there's some that are obviously tubeless that sit on there. But they're phenomenal. They're amazing. So yeah, so it's cool.
So, talk to me then about gaining that trust or relinquishing that control and what that feels like, what that is like, and the impact that's had as you approach a meal and you don't have to consider the needles as well. Like, talk to me a bit about that shift.
So it's crazy. So I'm now I like when I was on the multiple daily injections, and even before that, I'd be a little bit cautious around what I'd eat, like because I was always worried that like it's going to spike my glucose or make me ill or stuff like that. This, I just eat and do what I want. I know that sounds crazy. So, as diabetic, you should be able to live your life as a normal person. And that's not to say go and eat 1,000 Mars bars or like, you know, but there's no harm in eating those things if you trust the technology to help you get over those things. So what I mean by that is, so say for example, I went and ate a Mars bar now, I'd feel confident doing that. So I'd feel confident in eating that, whereas previously I wouldn't do. I feel it gives me a bit more like control as well. I don't have to think too much about it. As long as I put the right amount of carbohydrates in. The big thing is making sure you understand your carbs and your carb counting. If you can do that, you are onto a winner. So, what basically what will happen is that in the background it will automatically give you the insulin over periods of time. Every 5 minutes, the way the Omnipod works is via hybrid closed loop. It works out actually in the next hour. I think Richard's going to go high or he's going to go low. So I'll stop the insulin or I'll give him more insulin in these periods of time. via what he's told me he's going to eat via the carbohydrates. Now, one of the downsides is it doesn't know whether this is like a fast acting carb, a slow acting carb. This is the thing where they need to beat that bit. This is the whole bit about talking about the loop system, not hybrid closed loop. That would be something hopefully they can get onto. But once you can start working out that actually I need to do this insulin maybe 10 minutes before, or I need to eat instantly now after doing that, this thing's phenomenal. Like, I don't really have to think too much about things now. I can just do what I want to do. But the other thing is, I moved on to something called FIASP as well. So not just moving on to the insulin pump, but FIASP is phenomenal. So FIASP is like it's a faster acting insulin. I don't think it's super fast acting compared to the fast acting stuff. They call it ultra fast or something, or ultra rapid, don't they? It makes you laugh. So,
Like some sort of
but
superhero
so,
name.
yeah, that's it,
Ultra
ultra rapid.
rapid.
Yeah. But even though it still works slower than a normal person who gives with insulin in the system, but it's still fast. It's still a benefit. The ultra fast or ultra rapid insulins are a big thing. They seem to have taken away like even more decision making there because they work faster. So people don't know one of the problems is with insulin is it takes time for it to kick in. So we have to wait like 10, 15, 20 minutes for it to start activating before we can eat sometimes. Whereas the ultra rapids, it can be 10 to 5 minutes or sometimes instant, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, I
So
found as well since moving on to hybrid closed loop that my pre-bolus window is smaller even than it was before. Sometimes, like at first, I was going a bit hypo because I would take my pre-bolus and be quite used to needing sort of 15, 20 minutes. Whereas actually now, and obviously everyone is different, yeah, it's more like 5, which is quite interesting. And then on injections, it was longer. And on Novo Rapid on injections, sometimes it would be 45 minutes.
I love how they call it Nova Rapid, and it's not really rapid, but I don't think people realize this is another kind of thing with diabetes. It's like we have to wait sometimes to even eat, and not always, but like it can be annoying. It's like I just want to eat something. Just let me eat it now, But you can
Yeah,
do that, yeah. But
it's
uh,
but it
so
if you do eat it now, like there are consequences. It goes back
there
to what
are
we were saying
exactly.
before. If you're out with your family and you suddenly stop for a snack, it's like, oh, I have to wait. Like these are memories and experiences that are kind of suffering because of this condition and
Yeah.
not being aware that there are other ways to do things that can positively impact these experiences you're trying to have as you move through life. Or my one, when I used to work in an office in central London, was trying to take my Novo Rapid early enough, knowing I was going out to the shop in about
Mm,
20 minutes. And then I'd have to absolutely inhale that food because I had a meeting coming up or whatever, and trying to
mm.
find these windows where like some sort of video game, like the door is closing and you're trying to move through it at the right time. It's so difficult. So to talk about you and your family then with this kind of flexibility and freedom and spontaneity, I guess is what you're saying around meal times. How has your family life been impacted by all of this?
So it's a huge change in a big way. So I don't really think about the needles anymore. It's just all my focus now is on my little dudes and Lynn. So I nearly called Lynn a little dude there. So on my little dudes. So
Oh,
um,
you're
but
gathering of little dudes.
but no, honestly, my I do think it's massively changed stuff. It's like I think I was so focused on the needles before and what it was doing that I feel like I lost a bit of time with them, where now I've got that time back, and it feels like now what I try to do is I don't try to let it get to the forefront of things, my diabetes. Sometimes it does, it's just what it does, and there's nothing I can do about that, but it's less of that now and more of I can think of what I can do with my guys, there's less, like, worrying about actually, like you mentioned there, I need to take my insulin 20 minutes before and or I need to take all these needles out with me and all that sort of stuff. Because one of the benefits as well with the insulin pump, I still take backups with me wherever I go. It's just on you and it does the stuff you need to do. I don't need to get a needle out and inject myself in front of loads of people, which it could have been used to be quite embarrassing that sometimes. used to get funny looks at people. um, so because they don't understand what it is. But yeah, so it's more now. I can just focus. All right, cool. We've just been to a museum. We can now go and get some food. Just do your insulin, done. So you don't need to worry about it. It's on you. It's done it. Don't do nothing. So it's more now. I can just focus on my little guys, and that is what it's become about now. And it's more now. I feel that I'm freer to do things with them and my life in general. So
Oh, amazing. And coming back to Lynn, not a little
yes,
dude, your wonderful
no, no.
partner.
Yeah, Lynn's,
um,
Lynn's awesome. So
yeah, what have you spoken to her at all about this change that she's seen in you and kind of what it's been like?
so what's happened since going on the insulin pump? I've actually been able to lose weight as well. So that's a huge thing now because I actually think it's because I've started using less insulin. I'm still eating more or less the same as what I was doing before, but I'm not going hypo as much. So I'm not having to jump in and eat like loads of things to bring my glucose back up. Um, it's now so well controlled, and so I've been able to lose tons of weight. I'm like a different person, she says. But Lynn, honestly, like Lynn definitely has said like the change is amazing. So it's like a new version of me, uh, which I don't like talking about stuff like that, but it
Oh,
is to be honest with you. I actually feel more confident with my work as well. So it's more like before I'd always be worried, am I going to go hypo on a meeting, like a Teams meeting, or am I going to go a bit funny on this? I mean, it happens. That's one of those things. But it's just like I'm way more confident with things. So over the last like year or so, I've been able to push myself further forwards to things as well. Um, but
incredible.
honestly, without Lynn, I would not be here as well. She is so amazing. She's phenomenal. So yeah.
Oh, and I think, we're sort of also paying like props to Lynn as well because she's going through it to some extent too.
She
Like
is.
not
Yeah.
in the same way, of course,
No,
but as someone who loves you and cares about you and lives alongside you and is involved in the hypos and the nighttime alarms and whatever it may be.
that's one thing. Lynn used to get really scared. Well, not scared. It used to freak her out a little bit when I go hypo in the night. She'd have to help me. I don't go hypo at night at all now. Like, in fact, I don't really go hypo, which I'm not saying this would be perfect for everyone going on an insulin pump. It's not. So, but if you are able to master it and work it out, then it will become like a life changer. But I barely go hypo. I think the last time was like maybe 6 months ago. I do go a little bit high, but it's very rare I go hypo because the insulin pump is able to help me. Like it cuts off the insulin when it starts dropping, but you get warned about it as well. So yeah, it's really good. Like a full on hypo, I've not had in 6 months. I've had pre sort of things, but yeah,
Unbelievable to kind of articulate that, no?
yeah. But that's it. Like it's a fear factor that's kind of it's there, but it's not there in the forefront now. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's an interesting point, I think, you saying that I still have to kind of work with it. It's a tool, right? It's not a magic cure, it's not a magic
it
fix. So,
isn't.
how did you go about learning the tool and learning how to kind of work with it in a way that has given you these incredible results?
So when I get something or something that's going to help me, I will research it to the nth degree. So I did so much research; it was untrue. But I also had the help of my diabetes nurse and a diabetes doctor. I I followed the guidance via Insulet, who make the Omnipod, and I think it's a big thing to follow it, but also to you can call them, you can give them a bell. Now they can't give you medical advice, but they can tell you about the system. So what they can do is say, actually, the system's designed to do this, the system's designed to do that. But I found that it's not perfect for everybody, and nothing is. Nothing's ever going to fit someone. It's like clothes, isn't it? Some clothes aren't perfect for other people. So, um, if you can try and master what it's telling you and work out what it's telling you to try and prevent those things, and more around being like it's not going to work straight away as well. That's the thing. A lot of people give up right away from these things because they think it's an instantaneous. It's going to work. It's going to just work and do these things straight away for me. It doesn't. You've got to kind of train the algorithm. Now, it's not smart. People think that the algorithm in the Omnipod is smart, and I'm going to be honest, it's not. It's more of you making the right decisions to build up the algorithm to do what you need it to do in those points in time. So, um, if you know, say you're going to eat a pizza, it's working out. This is just an example. People do things different, and it's not medical advice, obviously. But like for me, if I ate a pizza, I know I would need to give myself half the amount of insulin at this point in time, and then a little bit later, I know in an hour I give myself a bit more, the other half, and then it equals itself out and it works. I don't go high then from it, but it's trying to master that sort of thing and it's trying to work it out. And there is like a good community out there as well. So obviously you've got to be careful taking medical advice of people, but asking questions and learning. Sometimes people tell you things and you do these things and they actually do help. So it's trying to work those things out. So the community is definitely a big thing that helped me as well there. Massively helped me. So because obviously Insight can only tell you so much in certain ways of doing things. And sometimes you've got to work these things out differently to do it for you. So
Yeah, and again, it's like this jigsaw element, isn't it? You've got your knowledge of your body and how your body responds, which you have to actively engage in and pay attention to. Then, the community out there online, Insulet, who are the experts in the device itself, and then your healthcare team who can help you from a medical standpoint. So all
exactly.
these pieces kind of combined, it's actually quite powerful, isn't it?
And a bit of advice I'd give is listen to all those bits of advice and try and join them together. Sometimes the jigsaw's pieces don't fit because you're using jigsaw pieces there. Sometimes they don't fit, but it's then looking at why didn't that fit. So I'm a logical person. What I will do is right, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? Let's look at it. So sometimes the data from your CGM can help you. So looking at your CGM. So for example, pizza I mentioned before. Now I'd give my bolus all up front and then I go really high later on. So it was then doing a bit of like, what can I do to make that work? Looking online, what did other people do to make it work for them? What things can I try to do here to make it work? So it's looking at those things, talking to people about it as well. Don't just give up. So if something doesn't work, one thing I found again, this is advice, nothing will work for you unless you actually push forward to try and find the solution sometimes. Diabetes, unfortunately, if you sit back and it's like, oh, yeah, it's not working, that I'm just going to stop, it won't work for you. You've got to, unfortunately, take control and say, right, I'm going to try this now. You're not going to beat me, I'm going to beat you. So it's that sort of thing, you know what I mean? So it's taking that approach. If you have that good approach and outlook with diabetes, I think that is a big hurdle. If you can get over that, this thing didn't work for me, and I'm not just going to give up here and that's it, it's the end. You've got to keep pushing. Like I said right at the start, like with the multiple daily injections, how I kept pushing the NHS and to go onto the insulin pump. You've got to take that approach. You've got to do these things, even with the decisions with the Omnipod, with some of the things. You've got to try different things to see what works, and then use that then for future. Like I know now eating a pizza, bolus part there and then part there. So
Yeah, constantly iterating.
that's it.
And I hope that the listeners can gather that for you, the payoff has been more than worth it, hasn't it?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. It's been phenomenal. So so yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. I really am. I'm thrilled. And yeah, is there any kind of parting wisdom that you'd like to offer, having come such a long way with all of this? And as you sit here before me, like I don't think we've got into like how much weight you've lost, how much
Oh, tons of weight. Yeah.
how
Yeah.
much your insulin requirements changed and your time in range now. Like we don't like to like tout these
No.
numbers around, but the contrast, like the percentage increase is absolutely phenomenal, isn't it, in your time in range?
Yeah. So I used to be on. about 105, 110 units a day of
Mm.
insulin. Now I'm on around 35, sometimes 40, 50 sometimes. But that's not bad. That's way better than 110, 105.
Mm.
So I've massively reduced in insulin. And like I said before, I'm still eating very similar. Um, Not to the extent of I'm needing to have lots of hypo stuff after, because I don't know hypo much anymore. And I've lost an absolute ton of weight, and I think I've lost the weight due to the least less insulin taken because insulin retains the weight. But I've also been able to be more free. So sounds free, free with my kids, and I can do more things with them and learn. So I'm able to do a lot more now. So I've lost a considerable amount of weight, but in a good way, and it's now maintained. And from that, I actually feel physically the most healthiest I've felt in like forever. And I'm being straight up with you there. But any parting knowledge to people is you've got to push and ask for things if you want it. Don't sit back on diabetes. And what I mean by that is if something doesn't work, don't give up. You have to be pushing and finding the right things that will work for you. And I know this sounds like a bit direct, but if you let diabetes take control of you, then you will have no life in some ways like it did to me. Try not to let it control you. That's one thing. It's not easy to do, but try and find ways where it can't do that. And there are things that can be done. There's the community. There's your diabetes team. There are people out there. Just ask, and push, and that's the only thing I could recommend. Um, I think that is the big key there. That's one thing as a diabetic who's had it for now, yeah, 38 years, is that don't sit back on your diabetes and don't let it take control. You take control of it.
Yeah. Wow. And it can get better, is what you're saying.
It
And
can
we all
get better.
deserve
Yes.
that. We deserve
Yes.
to be able to live our lives, whatever that looks like for each individual. And I'm so happy that you have, gone through that and you found this confidence and you're sat here with me today because you've done such a service with this conversation. So thank you so, so much.
Cool. Thank you.
Is there anywhere people can find you or say hello if they want to reach out?
So I have a Facebook page. I also have a Twitter page, but like you can probably find me on Facebook if you look for Richard Dixon. It is private, but if anyone wants to like drop me a message, I'm more than happy to help them there. And I used to get my Twitter name, which is really bad, but I think my Twitter name is Rick Dixon. So
Okay.
anyone who wants to drop us a message just to ask anything, I'm more than happy to answer things and things I've done to push things forwards. I'm more than happy to help people.
Yeah, we're gathering those jigsaw pieces. I love it.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So
Thank you so much, Richard. This has been
cool.
wonderful
Thank
to
you.
speak to you.
Awesome.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Type 1 on 1. Please remember that nothing you hear on this podcast should be taken as medical advice. I'm definitely not a healthcare professional. If you like what you hear, hit subscribe and do leave a little review on iTunes if you have time. It really helps to spread the word about type 1 diabetes. And thank you so much for listening.